Alright, so back to this. Yeah, finally got the other three videos uploaded, so it's nice. The indie horror one, but also the two more miraculous ladybug ones, right? The Jesus Christ, what would you call it? The miraculous ladybug endgame one, where I went over basically a common theory, specifically the one of Adrian being a sentient monster, and then kind of tying that into basically, what could possibly be the end of Miraculous Ladybug, right? Like the end game. Because again, I already went over two other scenarios, one being in Marinette and Kumai's, right? And one being in the season 5 predictions video, where I went over those ones. I went over, funny enough, in Marinette and Kumai's, I assumed, or I, what was it called, predicted Natalie would basically get sacrificed for a melee, and then in the actual season 5 prediction that basically it would come down to a choice, or at least for that, whether Gabriel follows through. But for the season 5, I anticipated basically, again, right, that he'd be more focused and worried about Natalie, especially since she was suffering from the repercussions from using the Peacock Miraculous, the damaged one, right? So in that one, he would instead, drop his ambition and focus on her, basically, right? Or instead use his power or whatever means in order to save her instead, right? So basically, he'd also have a choice there in whether to follow through, right? But again, right? I mean, that, I guess, those imply everything wraps up nice and smoothly. But again, this theory kind of posits its own end game, right, relating to it. But again, after watching season 4, right, I wanted to talk about, because I'm not even sure if it was really I think it was around the time of season 3, right? I think people had I think I heard of it then, or I think it was kind of flowing around then, but it wasn't as prevalent. But again, season 4, it's after season 4, right? Again, that was when it started to become popular and became relevant, and it became prevalent. Is again, it makes a lot more sense. It makes more sense after season 4. It didn't really make sense after season 3, but after season 4, right? It makes a lot more sense within the context of season 4. So, but again, right, there's that. And then I made the how Hawkmoth can win video, where basically, honestly, I didn't even really talk that much. I just basically went through all the miraculous he had, and there's basically said, if he's the second dumbest person in the world or smarter, he wins. But obviously, we know it's not going to happen. And then I brought up how I just brought up again issues with the timeline, right? Because again, since we know Alex or Bunks didn't come back in time, right? We know, like, again, literally zero stake. We know Hawkmoth doesn't win, right? Like, we know that he can't win because even if he got all of them right, that's something where if it would have led to him winning, she would have just come back in time, which she didn't. So we know he doesn't win, right? But again, I talked about kind of basically barring that, how he could use the miraculous to win, and I just went over a few things, right? The big thing being he could win without even needing Ladybug and Chat Noir's miraculous, right? He can revive a melee in multiple ways, right? Without even needing to use the wish, right, to fight them and take their miraculous. Again, he could literally give himself the power to bring her back using the Rooster Miraculous. Let me just get up the miraculous powers list, right? He could literally use that. What's it called? He could use that, right? And then he could use. Is this all of them? Okay, yeah, it is. And then, but besides that, he could also literally use the rabbit one to go back in time and prevent her death to begin with, and prevent himself from. Wow, I'm just seeing this on series news. Season 5 scheduled to premiere summer 2022. That's bullshit. No way. Zero chance. Yeah, zero chance. I say at least 2023. But again, right, besides the point, right? Again, right, so for that at least, again, something to where it's like, yeah, again, you can literally just go back in time, prevent the event, which again, if we assume within the context of the, what would you call it? Adrian being a sentient monster theory, right? Which would be the creation of him by a melee using the Peacock Miraculous, which damaged it and then damaged her because, creating an actual living being, right? Like we saw Natalie do at a smaller scale with the Ladybug clone, but again, we assumed that, it would prevent that, right? presumably prevent the creation of his son. But again, that would which again which would explain why he almost hates Adrian, right? Again, because he's technically inadvertently the cause of death of his wife, right? But again, that would again lead to her still being alive, and then lead to him never becoming Hawkmoth to begin with. So yeah, but there's that, right? And then again, that's something to where it's like, so that's just another way, a third way. A third way could be one of the powers, right, is, what is it called? It was on the other list, I think, right? It was, I think it was the pig one. Was it the pig one? I don't know. It was on a different Miraculous Superheroes, right? Or it was, okay, now I'm getting ads up the wazoo, but, okay, this is way more than, Wolf Miraculous. Hold on, but where are these? We're getting some, like, weird ones here, like, how do we have, okay, anyway, never mind, right? So this is just some other stuff. But again, I swear there was another power or another idea I had, and I think it had to do with the pig. Oh, there's a Raven Miraculous, that's cool. Bitch, I'll take that one. So, where are all these others, right? I don't know, anyway, I'm just going on random websites, so let me stick to the main website, the actual, like, wiki itself. I'm going on some, like, weird websites here, right? Okay, let's see. Yeah, I don't know, but those are just the two main ways, right? I'm getting off topic here. But then we went into, what's it called? There's actually a power ranking, but I'm going my own ranking, and more so in terms of which ones I would have, right? So, but again, right besides the point. But then, in terms of beating Ladybug and Chat Noir, right? He could figure out their identities. Like, I mean, well, first, besides not only just being able to beat them, right? And get the wish, he could literally figure out their identities. He could use the Rooster Miraculous to give himself the power to figure it out, right? That's just one, right? That's just one. He could use the Time Miraculous to literally go back in time, since he knows that Master Fu is the Guardian, right? And who he is. He can just go back in time and literally watch him give them the Miraculous, right? He can do it that way. Again, that takes a bit longer. But again, right, that's something where it's like he could literally figure that out that way. And then he could also, again, along with that, right, besides using the time one, he could also use the space one or the horse, right, teleportation. Literally, like, he can control all, well, I said he basically has all of the Infinity Stones, right, with the Miraculous he has, right? The Miraculous themselves are just such crutch powers, again, as I've been saying, not only in terms of physical capabilities, but also in terms of just, like, again, basically, like, the actual tools they give and allow the user to use, right? Like, just gadgets and stuff. But also in terms of, like, just the powers they have, the wide range of, like, abilities that they have, especially since he has literally every single one. But, again, but by using those two, right, he can literally just pop up at any point in the series. Any point we've seen, he could literally just pop up since he can basically travel through all space and time, right? And then he can also use, again, he has the rest of the Infinity Stones, like illusion with a reality, right? That's basically reality. Mind is actually the, what would you call it? Well, that would be a combination of the eagle and the pig, I guess. So, and then also just the standard peacock and barfly that we've seen. And then again, I guess the one he wouldn't have is soul, right? Or I guess that would actually be the, what would you call it? That would actually be the pig and then the eagle, right? And then what's the one I'm missing, right? Soul. Well, no, I just talked. But again, right? And then you can just do some busted stuff, like going through the list, right? Let's see which ones he has, right? He has, okay, the normal two, right? He has the rabbit, which can literally go through time, which is just insanely busted, right? Cat, or no, he doesn't have that one. Tiger, okay, that's basically useless. It's just a strong punch. Useless compared to stuff like traveling through time. Dog, that's pretty useful. He could literally go back in time. He could go back in time Use a dog miraculous to fucking touch literally the miracle boxes that Ladybug and Chat Noir are given, and then literally call it to the future. Because here's the thing, he has that combined with the fucking horse and then the rabbit one, right? So he can literally call objects through space and time, which is insane. So he can do stuff like that. Goat, and then again, allows the user to create who's an object they can manage by painting to existence. That's actually pretty insane. Something that I didn't pick up on earlier. That's a pretty busted. It's basically just a lesser version of, well, I guess not necessarily, because it's only objects, not like powers. So it's all right. But I mean, the issue being if you're fucking drawing, right, it can only be so big, right? Pig we talked about. Eagle, not really useful in that situation, right? Because he wouldn't want to hit on his enemies, much less himself. So Ladybug, Fox pretty busted. He could use that for like some hostage situation stuff. And then the mouse, and then oh my god, I was talking about with the mouse. If it actually came down to a fight, he could literally use the mouse miraculous on himself, and then give each of his clones other miraculous. Right? It's like insane. We literally saw Marinette's Ladybug do that in one of the season 3 episodes. But literally, he could just do that. Right? It's actually kind of insane. Like he can literally just do that. He can literally just fucking create an army of clones clones with like miraculous. It's insane. And then Ox, make himself impervious. That's literally like basically just a hard counter to Chat Noir right there, right? And literally just do that as like oh my god, the Snake Miraculous is just busted, right? Especially since he doesn't have the 5-minute limit, presumably, because he's an adult, right? Since that's how these powers work. Turtle, useless. I mean, again, it's basically just, I guess, a worse. It's kind of all. It'd be more like for ranged stuff as opposed to the Ox, which would be like physical. But compared to like traveling through like time and space, it's not really that good. Rooster, easily the most busted one. I mean, literally, the powers themselves are so busted already. Like, it's already such a crutch power enough, but then you give make one of the miraculous have the power to literally just give yourself any power. It's literally just the ultimate crutch power. And again, I'm getting into this video, but just trying to explain how he'd basically just win, right? Monkey, again, he could also, that'd be more like an offensive disruption to Chat Noir, or even potentially Ladybug, Lucky Charm. Be kind of useless. I mean, I guess it's useful if he's literally just going to travel through all space and time to hit Ladybug and Chat Noir. Like, at literally any point in the series, you can just pop up and then sting him, right? Too easy, right? And again, Horse and Dragon. Dragon's kind of useless. I mean, controlling the elements is nice and cool and all, and, like, weather stuff. But, like, when it comes to, like, some of these powers, like, in terms of being busted by traveling through space and time, it's just, like, again, right? So, like, some of the lesser powers, like, which are pretty good. Like, I mean, the power to literally just control weather, the power to, like, completely immobilize, and then also completely, like, protect yourself. Like, you'd think those would be some of the most powerful, but they're actually some of the weakest in terms of some of these, right? But moving on, right? But enough, I actually had 2 ideas for this video, right? Yeah, I actually had 2 ideas for this video. So this is something to where it's like, again, the first idea was basically to talk about Gabriel and Hawkmoth and like redeemability and whether or not he's a redeemable villain. Honestly, looking at it now, I'd say no. I think the issue being in season 3, I still saw him as redeemable, but kind of looking back, he's not really. I mean, in season 2, I'd say he's definitely redeemable. But in season, I think again, it was only after watching season 4 to where I realized he wasn't redeemable. Because I think before then, I didn't even look at it on a by-season basis. But, so I just, again, saw him that way. But again, after season 4, it's kind of like, yeah, that's not really the case. More in looking back, not even really much so during season 3, only really season 2. But I just don't really see a reason to talk about that, right? Again, that's something to where it's like, I mean, just... That'd be like old me making like 1, 2, 3 hour long videos on that, right? But yeah, now, and again, and kind of going on the last video, right, talking about how Hawkmoth can win using all the miraculous, I wanted to basically make, again, basically, I guess, a list of miraculous that I would want, right? Not even necessarily, what would you call it? Not even necessarily, like, let's say, like, a list of, like, most powerful miraculous, because, like, I wouldn't even want to try and do that. That'd be like a fucking 10-hour video, right? But instead, rather just, and not much, not even a list of like if Miraculous went on like which Miraculous will win in a 1v1 against the rest, right? I wouldn't even do it like that as well, because it's almost like rock, paper, scissors, right? But again, just to list some more like personal favorites, right? Which ones like I would want. Like if I had a list of which ones I would want, right? And I already talked about how much of a crutch power it is. Like I think these powers are literally better than like stand abilities, right? Like if you know what those are, right? You know, these are just like these are like it's so funny how much of a crutch power the Miraculous are, right? But again, right, I just want to basically get a list in 15 minutes and right, get a list of ultimately, again, which ones I'd want, right? So I feel like, yeah, I think it's about time. So again, and I'm going off of the wiki one, the Miraculous Ladybug wiki, because there's others like Miraculous Superpowers from the Heroes wiki, but this has some like other stuff, right? So apparently there's like, what would you call it, right? There's like, again, Bear Miraculous, bitch, we haven't seen this. Like literally, where is this from? This has to be from like some like comic book or some shit, right? So, because like I literally don't know what this is from, right? So, again, right? So these must be from like some comic or something, because there's like a bear one, which let's say allows a user to see as far as 5 years into the future, which you can literally just fucking do with the rabbit one anyway. Lion allows you to put someone in a frozen state until command. Bitch, the episode's titled Crypto. I mean, that's literally just the fucking bee one, right? Well, I guess this one would be better because you can almost like control them. But then again, that's just like the fucking Akuma, the butterfly and peacock one, right? Dolphin allows the user to manipulate water. Okay, like if you count water inside of people, that could be useful and deadly, but if you count like water molecules, but bodies of water, that'd be pretty useless. Horse, we saw that. Raven allows the user to shapeshift into someone for up to 5 minutes. I mean, like, why not just, you literally just use the illusion Miraculous for this, right? Like, you can just do it that way, right? And aren't there other ones, or wasn't there another one that did something similar? But yeah, Fox, you could literally just use the Fox one. Panther allows the user to give 5 different people superpowers. So is this literally just a superior version of, it doesn't say anything about controlling them, so I guess if they're your allies or something. So Wolf allows you to create a copy of himself. The clone, okay, so it's basically just a second version of you, right? That's not even that good, because neither of them have any special powers, just beyond being, I guess, physically capable. Chameleon allows you to absorb negative emotions, transform to people with those emotions. Okay, so basically just mind control again, right? And this is, again, this has to be in, like, some comics or some shit. Because there's, like, stuff that just, I don't know. It's very unclear. And then let's go to the actual superpowers, right? So, then we go to, like, yeah. So, these are just all the powers, right? But, okay, this one doesn't have that many, so. And then main characters ranked by power. I'm not fucking doing that. But again, so let me go off the main list, right? I feel like that's best. I'm not going into like, because the comic ones, because I haven't seen how those work, so. But again, right? And I don't really know of them, so. All right, let's go. Enough wasting time. 18 minutes in, so. Yeah, I guess I feel like first off, I think it's obvious the first one, right? The first one's going to be the Rooster Miraculous, right? I mean, even if we assume you can't just give yourself any power to include any of the other powers, like, just in terms of versatility, right? It's just like, again, like I said, Miraculous itself is already a crutch power in terms of, like, just being able to do whatever the user requires, right? In terms of physical capabilities and also, like, gadgets and electronics with the fucking weapon, right? With whatever their tool is. But on top of that, like, and then already having just insane abilities, right? Like, just such a wide variety of abilities, like, among all of them. But having one of them just to give the user, like, any ability in and of itself, right? Again, it's just, like, that's just too powerful. I mean, I would say I'm glad that who got it, right? Was it Rose? I think Rose got it. Good for her that she got it, right? Because that just, I think anyone looking at that list would probably pick this as number one, right? You think anyone looking at this would pick this as number one? Because again, it's just even assuming, because obviously if you could give yourself the ability of any R1, then clearly it's just the superior one, right? But even if you assume not, right, that's still just so versatile, right? Again, you really can't pass it up. Like, if people look at this, right, I really don't think anyone's not going to pick this as number one, right? It's just insane. So, moving on, right? So that's one, right? I think that's a fairly obvious pick. Now, moving on. Number two, right? Number two, I'd say I originally looked at. I'll start by phrasing this. I originally looked at the GOAT one earlier because it says producing any object they can imagine by painting it, right? But then I realized, okay, I thought it was just originally an inferior version of the Rooster, but it's like, okay, now you need to paint it, and you can only paint so much. So it really doesn't seem that good, right? Just being entirely honest. Especially if it's not like any super like powered object or something. I guess here's the thing. I'm still going to pick this one as number two, right? Reason being that, like, I guess not in terms of, like, fighting, but it would still be extremely useful for basically anything, right? Especially if the object doesn't go away. I guess if the object went away, I don't know. I mean, I guess obviously, like, well, technically I'm an adult now. When I start watching this, I was the age of the characters when I started watching this. Now I'm fucking old, right? I'm an adult. I honestly think this would be pretty useful. Again, not nearly as busted as the Rooster. Like, the Rooster would probably beat any other one in a fight simply because of how busted it is in nature. This one, I wouldn't say so, but I think it's also just an extremely useful one because even though it's not nearly as versatile, right? Again, this is also something that's it's still extremely versatile and can come in handy. But again, it's just, I originally thought it was just an inferior version, but now I guess it's a very inferior version, but it's still something that's useful, right? Again, being able to paint any object, even though you're kind of limited in terms of that, it's still pretty big, especially with how we've seen the Miraculous be, like, used and have, like, again, like, you could presumably paint some, like, hyper-realistic stuff. Like, you could probably paint fucking people into existence, right? But again, I think I'd put this as number two. Even if we kind of lowball it in terms of what you can paint, right, or what you can bring into existence, even assuming it all goes away, you can bring some, like, let's say, you can paint some real, like, it could come in, I can, like, think of some stuff that'd be coming real handy, right, in terms of just, like, painting. Again, I just think, like, this wouldn't be as useful in combat, right, but just in terms of overall, like, usefulness, right, it's just still so versatile. Like, I think I'm putting this one as two, right? The GOAT, again, it's just, like, you can get real creative and you can do some real, like, again, you can get real creative and you can do some real, like, what would you call it, right? Some really, like, wacky stuff with it, right? So, just some really, like, busted stuff with it, so, or just, what's the term I use? You can just do some really, like, funky stuff with it, I don't know, but it's still, I think, again, even though it's not nearly as powerful, right, especially in terms of combat relatedness, it's still something to where, again, I still think, again, it's up there number two, right? Just because it still has that extreme versatility, right? And again, then I'd say, like, again, you can do some kind of fucky stuff with it. Not as much as the Rooster, but still. I think I made my point, right? I'm still going with number two for this one, right? So, yeah. So there's that, right? All right. So number three for me, I think it's obvious. Gotta be the Rabbit Miraculous. I mean, basically, because here's the thing, right? Let me read this verbatim. Allows the user to open a portal through which one can enter a pocket dimension filled with windows that one can use to view and travel through. This is, like, extremely powerful because not only does it give you the ability to literally travel through time, which in and of itself would still probably make it three, but it literally allows you to basically view, like, the entire timeline. Like, it basically gives you knowledge of the whole timeline. Like, you know literally exactly what's going to happen at every single second of the timeline. It's literally omnipresence, right? You can literally be omnipresence with this because you can look at every single second of the timeline and know every single little thing that's going to happen, right? In terms of not only, in terms of that being able to view, right? Again, honestly, being able to view, here's the thing. I think being able to either view or travel through time those would still probably both on their own be third, right? Honestly, no, fuck it. I'm putting this above the dog one. This is just so busted, right? Being able to view the timeline and then also travel through time on their own, I'd say would put it in that 3 spot, right? But combined, I mean, it's like, come on, this is just so busted. Like, they really should have, again, right, split it in 2. Like, that's just so busted, because both of those abilities on their own would put it at 3, right? But again, together, it's like, come on, it's just a given, right? I'd say again, right, just, yeah, something to where it's like, again, basically being omnipresent by being able to view, or what's it called? Not omnipresent, omniscient, right? Again, you can, or no, it is omnipresent. Yeah, it's omnipresent, right? Well, no, never. I'm an idiot. Omniscient. Well, I mean, technically it could be both, right? By literally being able to view, like, have complete knowledge of the timeline by viewing, like, every single second and knowing every single little thing that happens in it, right? And then also being able to travel literally any point, right, and pop up anywhere. So, again, it's just so busted. It's such a busted ability. Like, each of them on their own would be 3, but combined, I mean, come on. So that's 3, right? That's an obvious 3. 4, again, 4 for me, I think for me it has to be the snake one, right? Like, for me, this is a tough one. I'd say it's between the snake one and then the horse one being 5. Being able to basically travel through space and go to any point. I think this one slightly edges out, slightly wins, right? Again, the snake one, right? Basically, again, being able to set a point in time and then go back, right? Especially as an adult, where you apparently have no time limit whatsoever. Like, 5 minutes enough? Like, honestly, I'd say that's kind of what makes the difference. I think 5 minutes, right? If you had to insert that time limit or input that time limit, right? I think it would be below the what would you call it? The horse one, right? Where you can travel through space. But again, without that time limit, right? Again, that's just, I could set it now, live for years on end, and then if something unfortunate happens, right, come on back, right? But it would more so be something to where if you're going to do some, like, major thing, right, you could literally just set it, see if it works out. If it does, keep it, right? If it doesn't, go back. You can literally game your own life by literally just, again, you can min-max your own fucking life using this. And then that's not even talking about in combat. In combat, it's probably one of the most useful ones, if not the most useful one in combat, right? Because you can literally just redo each fucking scenario. Like, again, with, like, Adrian redoing it, like, 7,000 times. Or, like, Luca trying every single possible combination for the safe, right? Like, it's literally just, in combat, it's busted. The most busted, I would say, if it's like a one-on-one fight against any user or something along those lines, right? It would honestly probably win against AR Miraculous in a one-on-one fight just because of how busted it is. But also in just terms of overall utility, like, I'd say without the time limit, again, you can basically just, like, I'd say you could set for years on end, but how you would use it is, like, literally you would just set it at the start of every day, basically min-max, like, your life, like, maximize, like, gain the most utility out of every single day, and then eventually, like, it adds up later down the line, right? Like, months, if not years, and you're in, like, you'd basically be able to rule the world simply by just min-maxing every single day, right? Again, right, presumably you could literally gain, like, infinite knowledge, right, by basically just reliving the same day over and over, if it really came down to it. Like, it's something where it's, like, again, it's just kind of insane, right? Or if you do choose the years on end thing, right, again, go back and then basically, like, you can do some pretty fucky shit, right? But again, I think I made my point, right? Again, it's just such a busted ability. And I think, honestly, if I had to pick one that would be able to beat any other one in a one-on-one fight, it would be this one. Just because, again, they can just keep redoing the fight until they win, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. So, yeah, that's 4. So moving on to 5, right? Again, as I said, this would have to be the horse one, right? Horse Miraculous, again, just traveling through space. It's just, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? Just traveling through time. I mean, I'd say traveling through time is superior. Even being able to, like, almost like reverse time with the snake is superior, but traveling through space is still pretty insane, right? Like, extremely fucky, right? Literally just being able to pop up anywhere, again, it's just so useful. Such a useful ability, right? Again, that's just something to where it's like, yeah, in terms of that, yeah, I really don't know what else they are than it's just a pretty busted power, right? Again, it's insane. Again, like I said, if there was a time limit on how far you could travel back using the snake one, I'd say this one goes above it, but without a time limit, this one's under. Again, and only slightly under too, because being able to travel through all space is still insane, right? Still busted insanely fuck you, right, with what you can do. Traveling through time superior, but space is it's still insane, right? I think I made my point. So that's number 5, right? So moving on again, it's something to where it's like, yeah, in terms of that, I feel like I kind of made my point with these. So, but yeah, I guess moving on, right? So number 6, right? This one's going to be well, I guess technically, actually, hold on. The Monkey Miraculous may be able to win out. It'll disrupt the abilities of anyone who touches it. But then it just turns into a 1v1 like fisticuffs. So, again, it's like it wouldn't work, I guess, to begin with in terms of, it's not like the user has an extreme advantage, right? It just turns into 1v1. So, but again, that's distracting. Moving on, right? So number 6, right? I would say, again, for me, number 6, let's see. Because I'm just kind of going through this list, right? I don't want to say it right. I mean, I guess, here's the thing. I think for number 6, honestly, number 6, I think I'd have to go with the butterfly one, right? Again, because here's the thing, right? Besides being able to transform other people into, basically, because here's the thing, we've seen however many supervillains at this point. They have an extreme wide array of just, again, powers and abilities, right? Even more so than the Miraculous themselves. It's pretty insane. You've got villains from fucking, I don't even know. Again, it's even more wide range than, Miraculous, right? And not only this, what makes this also good is the user can transform themselves, right? And then give them presumably any array of power, right? Or any of the arrays, or any of the, what would you call it? Any of the wide array of abilities or powers that we've seen the Hawkmoth give anyone else. He can just give, in this, I guess, just the user. Like, any power that we've seen any of the akumatized villains get, the user could get, right? They could just transform themselves and give themselves that power. So it's actually kind of insane. Honestly, I could actually probably move this one above the dog. I'm going to create a full list after this. You could probably move this above. I guess, again, the only downside being, I'd say, honestly, I think I'm going to move this above this and the peacock. Because also, again, that being a senti monster, right? Basically, that'd basically be a stand, but honestly, I'm moving both of these two up. I'm moving both of these up to the level of the Rooster, right? Because I didn't really think about it earlier, but again, right? Because I was thinking giving other people those abilities is strong enough. That's kind of what I was thinking about this, right? With how wide of an array of abilities and powers we've seen the villain cast have, right? Again, it's just pretty insane. But I forgot that you could literally give yourself these powers, right? So I'm moving those up. I'm actually moving those up behind the Rooster and then the dog one, right? Or whatever or not the dog one, the goat one. So I'm moving those up. So I guess that'd be 4 and 5, or that'd be 3 and 4. Or hold on, I'm gonna come back. I actually need to do something real quick, but it's actually a perfect time to break, and I'll come back with my thoughts. This is going to be longer than I anticipate, so stay tuned.